Hello lads and ladies, welcome back for another video on the channel. Today back with some more Sky Bet League One content. In today's video we're having a look at the start of the season predictions I put out back at the end of July. Where did I put each team? How well did I do on a few? I've had a few stinkers, a few good ones, but a few stinkers as well. Please get a like in the video. Can we go for 200 likes on this one? Subscribe if you haven't already. A big thanks for 17,000 subscribers. Let's go for 18,000 subscribers. At the bottom of the table, I put Shrewsby Town, who finished bottom, 1 out of 1. Thanks for watching today's video. 100% record. That is that. I am a genius. See you in the next one. Wait. So I did put Shrewsbury bottom of the league, who did finish there on 33 points. They went through 3 managers. They nearly got a change of ownership. I looked at this as a club in transit, 10 years in League One, struggling team, hadn't really progressed. And I thought that other clubs around them had progressed a little bit more. And it was kind of their turn, which it turned out to be for Shrewsbury as they got relegated from League One. In 23rd, I went with Crawley, who actually finished 21st. I think this was a nailed-on prediction that Crawley would get relegated. I actually, before the video started, had Crawley 20th, but I changed my mind late on to put Crawley in the bottom 4, really. Overall, not a bad prediction. They finished with 3 wins, really, and a draw away at Birmingham. So they finished with 10 points. If Scott Lindsay stayed for the full season, he won 7 out of 15 in League One. Who knows? But Crawley, I'm calling that another decent prediction. 22nd, I went with Northampton. Poor prediction, because I got sucked in that Northampton's second season syndrome. They ended up finishing 19th. Yes, only 3 places out. But when you put in a team to get relegated and they comfortably stay up in the end, I think they got 51 points. They stayed up really, really well. They did really well to stay up. They stayed up by 5 points, but it almost felt more than that. Finally, at 21st, went with Cambridge, who ended up finishing 23rd. So swapping places with Crawley. Another prediction, a bit like Shrewsbury. I just didn't think they had the backing, and they've got away with it the last couple of years. I just thought third time lucky. So I got 3 out the bottom 4, and Northampton, who just finished outside. So far, not bad. In 20th, I went with Mansfield Town, who I thought would stay up. They ended up finishing 17th, going on a really good run towards the end of the season. They won the last 2 games. They struggled in 2025, but in 2024, they're a top 10, top 12 club. Looking at the playoffs, it was a bit excitable to look that way, but not a bad prediction. They weren't far away. Maybe underestimated Mansfield a little bit. In 19th, I put Reading. The team that finished 7th, that went, I think, 12 games unbeaten, that missed out on the playoffs on the final day, that have a team full of Lewis Wings, Charlie Savage, Harvey Nibbs, Taylor Binden, Pereira. Good players. Sam Smith at the start of the season. And I underestimated them. I underestimated them too much. And they did really well. As a football club, they've united like you wouldn't believe this season. I just thought they're going to get administration, they're going to get, fines, they're going to get deductions. They didn't get that. They came through as a football club. Everybody as Reading Football Club can be proud this season. They've been in the Premier League. They got promoted to the Premier League. They got the EFL record before this season with 106 points. I think this group will go down in history in this last 2 years to be one of the best teams that Reading have had in terms of the character, the testament, their ambition, their loyalty to the football club and the families, what they've been through. And are they the best team Reading have ever had? They're not. But they're a good team. They're a good team, and they're a good bunch of lads there. And I underestimated them. Reading, well done. 18th, Exeter, who ended up finishing 16th. Not a bad prediction. They were in and around kind of 20th to 13th all around the season. I thought they would be. Start off well, go on a poor run, go on a good run, and then end up with a couple of defeats and a win against Huddersfield. 17th, I went with Stevenage, who finished 14th. Again, not a bad prediction. They were comfortably in that kind of echelon as well. Not a great prediction, but I'll take it. I think if I'm 2 or 3 away in that mid-table bunch, it's not too bad, because you can finish anywhere. You could finish on a couple of bad results and drop a few, or finish on a good few results and maybe enhance your position a little bit. Last year, I put Leyton Orient 15th, and they finished, I think, in the top 12. So what do I go and do this year? I go and underestimate Richie Wellens again, like I did at Swindon, like I did at Oldham, and it's never worked well. I put Leyton Orient 16th, they finished 6th. They won the last 6 games on the spin. They went for a period of winning 9 out of 11, then lost to Stockport, then won 3 on the spin. But then they lost 5 on the spin after that. Then they followed up with a couple of victories, a draw and a loss, then winning 6 on the spin. Never underestimate Richie Wellens, that's one thing I've learned. Another absolute nappers masterclass. 15th, Burton Albion. To be fair, second half of the season, that's not a bad prediction. First half of the season, they won 2 out, I think, 23 games and were disastrous. And were pretty much the worst team in the EFL at one point. They went on a really good run, stayed in the division, finished 20th. Burton Albion underachieved this season. I got abused for that prediction. Well, it looks like I was quite nice to Burton fans. Next season, I think they'd absolutely snap your hand off for 15th. 14th, I went for Bristol Rovers. They finished 22nd and got relegated out of the division. They lost 9 of the last 10, drew 1 away at Wrexham, funnily enough, at 1-1 draw. They were a shambles. The owners had bull of teeth and running the football club into the ground there, it seemed. They did get key injuries to key players. Chris Martin promised on a cherry, Campbell Conte. Again, they lost big players, and unfortunately, they've been relegated. A stinker. Bristol Rovers, you think they're progressing. Have they just gone through a season in like that? So far, the big stinkers are Bristol Rovers, Reading and Leyton Orient, to say a few. And we're not even almost at the worst ones yet. 13th. Oh, these next few are... Before I get into these next ones, I'm meant to be a League One YouTuber that is meant to tell you what's going to happen in League One. But in 13th, I put Wickham, who were basically second with 3 games to go and lost their last 3. They ended up finishing 5th, but they were second in the table. 5th really lies about Wickham. They weren't 5th all season. They were 2nd/3rd. They lost away a little bit at the end. But 8 places, that makes me look better. So yeah, they were 5th. But Wickham overachieving that first 7 months of the season. Unfortunately, were a bit inconsistent after that. Fair play, they did me like a kipper. 12th, Stockport. They finished 3rd, and from January onwards, in my eyes, were 3rd best team in the division behind Charlton and Birmingham. Leyton Orient weren't far behind Stockport, to be fair to them. Yeah, fantastic. 87 points. Dave Challenger's never finished outside the playoffs in his managerial career in a full season, which is going to be difficult soon, because when they're in the Premier League in 2 years' time, is it going to be the top 6 in the Premier League getting European football? Because there's no playoffs there. There's no playoffs anymore for European competition. So that streak will soon end. Yeah, Stockport, 9 places in front of where I had them. Wickham, 8 places in front. Bristol Rovers, 8 places below where I put them. Orient, 10 places below where I put them. Reading, 12 places below where I put them. Oh, don't listen to YouTubers, folks. 11th. Doreen once said, things can only get better. Wrexham, 11th. 11th. They finished 2nd with 92 points and got promoted for the 3rd year on the spin. Phil Parkinson masterclass. And I looked at it in the summer. I thought strikers, I thought they'd struggle with Ollie Palmer, Fletcher, Mullin. I just didn't think they had quality in key areas. I know they had the likes of Jack Marriott. They signed the likes of James along the way, Jay Rodriguez, Sam Smith was a pivotal signing as well, Longman as well. And I think players stood out that you wouldn't expect. Max Cleworth, Barnett in the first half of the season as well. Ollie Rathbone, Elliot Lee was fantastic, as we knew he would be. They did so well, proved me wrong. Wrexham, well done. I got abused for that, and I'll get abused for it again. Wigan, I put them 10th, they finished 15th, and 15th almost feels like a Wigan season. They weren't great. Wasn't a great prediction. I thought they enhanced the season. They were nowhere near it this season, unfortunately. 9th, Blackpool. Get in. I almost seem to be able to call Blackpool bang on every year. I put Blackpool there because I thought Critchley wasn't the man to take them. He got sacked after 2 games. If I think Bruce next season, I think they're a playoff team waiting to happen. I really think that he's going to get him 5 or 6 additions. They are going to lose key players, I think, this summer as well. Look at maybe other cases, Sonny Carey, possibly will leave the football club, but they're not far away. In 8th, Barnsley finished 12th. They were 8th until about 12, 14 games to go. They weren't far away from that. They were in around 8th, then they lost away a little bit. In 7th, I put Charlton Athletic. I thought they just missed out on the playoffs. For me, mind-blowing this season. From December onwards, they were absolutely fantastic. Only Birmingham that were better than them. Birmingham are in a league of their own. So for me, in the real league, I think Charlton were the best side in League One, really, because Birmingham don't count. They're a different animal with 111 points. And they had a glimmer of hope of top 2 with 3 games to go. 6th, at the time of this filming, I was actually in company of Jake Tong. And Jake Tong had me hostage. I put Lincoln City 6th. 6th. Now, I wasn't talking about best cathedrals here, because obviously they'd be in the top 2 for that. But I put Lincoln 6th. They didn't progress. And really, I look back at that, and that was a naive prediction, because they lost Lars Sorensen, they lost Joe Taylor. They lost key players, really. Replaced them, but players for the future. Rob Street came in. George Wickens came in on a long-term deal. Good players, but needed time to adapt. 5th, I went for Bolton. They lost 18 times last season. They were a disaster. Absolute disaster. They were so close towards the playoffs with 2 or 3 games to go. They could have got in. They won the last 3 games they were in. But unfortunately, they don't. Mentality switch of that football club. Miles off it. 4th, went for Peterborough. Naive again. So naive. They lost Ronnie Edwards. They lost, Mason Clark. They lost Johnson Clark-Harris. They lost big players, massive players. And Posh are a 2 or 3 year team. At the end of the cycle, they do well, lose the players, start again. At the start of that cycle, now bringing through young players, poor prediction. Good season for them in the Cup, 13 places out. In 3rd, I went for Rotherham on the basis of Steve Evans signed everybody over the age of 28. Experience, I thought that could get him over the line. Steve Evans gets sacked, and then they win 4 of the last 8, only lose 2, taking 14 points from a possible 24. And ended up finishing 13th, which accelerated their season a little bit, to be fair to them. But still, 10 places out. In 2nd place, I went for Huddersfield Town. I thought they'd get 2nd because of the signs of potentially Joe Taylor came in later in January. Lars Sorensen was a good one as well. They ended up finishing 10th. They were in and around the playoffs until they sacked Duff. Unfortunately, wrote off the season after that. In 1st place, Birmingham City. I'm an absolute genius. I don't think anybody else in League One would have got that. 3 out of 24 I got right. 3 out of 24. One good prediction in 8, which sounds a bit like my co-host Jake. One good show in 8. Yeah, Birmingham City won the league with 111 points. Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And we're a breath of fresh air. Yes, they spent money, but they still won that league. This video, I hope you did enjoy it. Please remember to like. Please remember to subscribe down below. And if you haven't already, get subscribed. And until next time, I will see you later.